Because it's genius. That's why. I'm literally taking notes over here. I'm like, this is so good. Okay.
Yeah.
So what like tools or systems are you using to be able to do this over and over again? Find them, talk to them, run your numbers, show them their numbers, and make deals work.
All of that business has been referral business. It's always like my son's selling their house, my dad's selling their house. I have tried to build the team multiple times, right? I was an individual agent early on, did the whole like, oh, I got these leads coming in that I can't service. Let's just build a team. That's what you do.
Your whole overall listing presentation, what does that look like? Can we do like a snippet where I am the seller?
I'll overpay for the property, quote unquote overpay. If you're giving me a great interest rate or great terms, that I will sell my side for free if I don't hit this number, right? So you feel confident that you're going to hit this number at least.
This is the Be More Show for agents, where you'll find real talk, and ambition. We're here to build real businesses and be more than your average agent. We want to know what killers are actually doing within their businesses, the reality of it, all tactical, no fluff. So we're here to find out. Please share and enjoy.
Dude,
What's up?
Jason Coleman in the flesh.
Jason Coleman.
Dude, we're so excited to have you here today. All up in the clouds. Your background looks amazing.
Yeah, I worked really hard on it. Yeah, thank you very much for having me.
Oh my God, of course. Okay, and so a little bit about what I know about you. This is kind of our thing. Like, we're going to say what we know about you and then go into the rest of the show and et cetera.
Oh God.
But when I think of Jason Coleman, I think of like high energy, completely passionate about real estate and about financial freedom, and this like really authentic and personable human who is always trying to like take care of everyone in the universe. Like, that's what I think of.
Could not be more wrong.
Thank you.
Can't stand real estate, can't stand people. This is going to go well. No, sorry.
Dude, but like, besides that, like into the weeds of your business, like I don't know, like super balls deep into all of it. So like, I'm super excited about getting beyond my heavenly impression of you, which is perfect because you're in the clouds.
Okay.
Now that we're talking about heavenly impressions, Jason, hit us with your show moment.
Okay. So when I first got into real estate, I guess this is probably 4 or 5 months in, I door knocked a ton when I first got started, still do from time to time to keep me loose a little bit. I was door knocking a pretty awesome neighborhood, having a great time. And all of a sudden, after about 100 doors in, my car is probably a mile away at this point. My stomach dropped out on me, which is what I call when I get the bubble guts. And it was a situation where I'm not close to my car. I'm not close to a convenience store or anything like that. I'm in the middle of nowhere. And I started sweating. I mean, it was a bad situation. And Yeah. So I had a conversation with a guy earlier, probably about 20 minutes before this all went down. Good conversation. Felt like we had hit it off. I was like, dude, I got to ask this guy if I can randomly use your bathroom. Right. And I went and knocked back up on the door, and it's not him. He had left. And it's his wife that I have never met. And it's like probably a 60-year-old lady there that I have never met. And I show up from scratch saying, I am so sorry. I just had a conversation with your husband. I'm a real estate agent, and I wouldn't ask you this if it wasn't a complete emergency, but I really need to use your restroom. And she let me in her house to just blow up a random bathroom. And it was awful because I was mortified. And
tell me it was loud.
It was bad.
Explosive.
In her guest in the half bath downstairs. It was a bad situation. I mean, I was close. I was borderline, like I'm about to go in the bushes in somebody's random house. It was a bad situation.
Or your pants.
Yeah, I was.
Which is I thought.
I'm glad you asked that.
Allie wants a visual. She really wants it.
Because of the
before,
God.
not
I'm glad you asked, because it's now a rule of mine to not eat the stuffed peppers at Fresh Market before you go on a door knocking campaign, which I had done around like 11:30, 12 o'clock that day. And
part of your checklist now.
Yes, the whole office knew about it. The whole it was a bad situation. But she was so nice. She was just like, hey, I was like, I'm so sorry. I came out of the bathroom. I just beat red, and she was like, "It's okay. It can happen to anybody." And I'm like, not really. Like, I appreciate that, but like, not really. But thank you so much. And they never ended up selling with me.
That's what I was like, did you seal the deal?
I did. I hopefully they may call back. They were on their forever home. I mean, didn't have any expectations there.
Oh my God.
I did. I sent them a letter afterwards, like, thank you in my time of, it was bad.
With some air fresheners, like, for next time.
Yeah. It was
so
really
far,
bad.
this is our first show story that's actually related to real estate, I think, right?
Really?
Yeah.
So you had some
good job door knocking.
stories.
Hell yeah.
You nailed it.
Yeah.
You're
good.
Yes.
So door knock on an empty stomach. Yeah.
Empty stomach.
Got it.
No peppers or whatever. Fresh market, whatever. So Pat, post story. Why should I listen to you? We love your DMs on Instagram, and as long as you don't sound like a bot or aren't sharing your overnight crypto success, hit us up on Instagram. Let's be friends. We're at The Shelby Show and at Allie the Agent. What do you bring to the table, Jason? Right now. Straight up. Why should we listen to you? This is your chance to plug yourself too. So.
Okay.
Oh my God, hype yourself. Tell your story. Do it.
No, I really, I mean, are we getting into the intro, like the backstory here? Because real estate has changed
tell us
my
about
whole
yourself.
life.
Like prior to real estate, what is Jason like? Who is Jason Coleman?
Yeah.
Who's Jay? All right.
Yeah.
How much time you got?
We're going deep.
No, I mean, so I started as far as like my professional career, I started in the healthcare world. I worked for multiple startup labs, like specifically dermatology type stuff, and kind of still had the whole live below your means, invest the rest mindset pretty early on. Feel very fortunate to have had that, but I definitely had I'm going to work for 40 years of my life, this W-2 job, benefits and whatnot, and retire when I'm 70 and then die 2 years after that. Right. I mean, it just really was like, I had given in to that and was like, let's do this. And it just ended up, and my wife and I got together. We've been together for 11, 12 years. We actually grew up together, the whole thing. So like we were I got very lucky with being with somebody that experienced the ground level there, being in the lab world and having that experience. But one random day, it was a cushy situation, and I just randomly showed up one day to work, and they had pulled the rug out from underneath me at a lab that I worked with. No more W-2, no more income. And it, at the time, was an end of the world situation. this was 6 years ago in March, and it really was holy shit. This was a situation where I felt like I was invincible, right? I don't want to say I got cocky by any means, but I was like, I'm set, right? I've built this business from scratch. Like I've truly helped out here just to keep this going. And it did not end up being that way. So like my wife and I, we just had this breakdown where, what the hell do we do? And I still had a close friend of mine. She told me the day, like this was like maybe a week after it happened. She was like, you're going to look back and realize that, this is the best thing that ever happened to you. Very cliche type, comment. And at the time I was like, I was just about to ask if I could cuss, because I was like, she don't know what you're talking about. Like I really was like, so mad. She was so like, she's a very like, she just meant well. And I was like, this is, no, you don't understand. Like I worked my ass off for this job, and there it goes. Right. And it wasn't like a life is over situation, but I started listening to Bigger Pockets. And I told my wife 6 years ago, I told her, I said, look, I need 5 years, right? I'm listening about the real estate thing and trying to figure out, I just need 5 years. And I'm going to figure this real estate thing out. And in 5 years, nobody's going to be able to control that paycheck over top of us again, right? We might have to move. We turned our primary home into a rental that we had just bought. It was a crazy situation where let's do this, turn the primary into a rental, started drinking the real estate Kool-Aid, listening to chugging it, and just turned into flipping houses, renting, buying rentals. Got my license as a side business. I was the guy talking trash about agents. Not all agents are created equal. I know that now.
You're that guy on TikTok.
I'm not.
You can just sell on your own
TikTok
by sticking a fence on.
I just didn't have the same. There were a couple people that I liked, and then there was one agent specifically that really helped me kind of get into that. I don't want to say mindset. He just showed me that what a great agent was, and I got my license for fun. I was like, I'm just going to save 3% on these rentals, the flips that we're buying. And it then turned into like, there's not a lot of investor agents out there. So then it turned into
opportunity.
Yeah, very quickly I closed 19 houses my first year, and then it's been a 40, 50 transaction year every year, not including the ones that I buy myself, just representing other clients. So I had no idea.
Really quick, some timelines. What year did you get your license, and how many years have you been licensed?
I've been licensed technically 4 years ago. I got my license, but I didn't start practicing real estate till almost a year after that. That's 7-8 months after that. So 3.5 years being an agent. And we turned our primary into a rental 5 years ago. So it's
badass. 19 your first year and 40, 50 every year after that. That's crushing.
Yeah.
You're doing the things.
I'm not selling $1 million houses right yet. I mean, I say yet, but there's value to selling a bunch of these houses, these portfolios. And we'll get into that later. But like the portfolio stuff, being an agent, investor, you can really set yourself apart because you can scoop up a part of that portfolio and sell the rest of the portfolio, which is what I've been able to do.
Totally.
To gain. Yeah.
Where are you?
I am in Greensboro, North Carolina.
Yeah. Okay, gotcha. What's your what's average sales price look like?
The median price point's $290 here now.
$290.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. And crush it. So we have the timeline a little bit, but so doing all these deals 19, 40, 50, 40, 50, whatever, continued on. What kind of leverage do you have? Like, do you have a hire? What does that look like?
Yes. So I have tried to build the team multiple times, right? I was an individual agent early on, did the whole I got these leads coming in that I can't service. Let's just build a team. That's what you do. Got into that multiple times. I don't want to say I wasn't very successful at it. I just didn't have it in me yet. And I have boiled that down where it was an admin, like an executive assistant, a buyer's agents that went for the list agent side. And it just didn't really mesh right with who I am. And then I have to handle everybody else's financial issues, their emotional issues, the mental fallout. And it turned into
preach.
Yeah. I mean, and everybody teaches that. All the agents, I'm sure there'll be plenty of agents here, and like a lot of agents feel like, oh, I'll just get to this 7th level team, and then I'll just step out, and everything will be peachy. And I'm like, that sounds all well and good until the freaking market shifts, and all your buyers agents are pissed off that they're not selling houses anymore, and you're spending $20,000 a month on Zillow leads. Like, I don't run my business that way. So I'm an individual agent. I do have a TC. As far as leverage goes, the first thing that I did early on, I think I maybe did 1 or 2 transactions by myself, like as their agent. I hired a TC, a transaction coordinator, very early on in this business. I haven't dealt with paperwork start to finish pretty much ever, right? And my TC still to this day does stuff that saves me, it's just the time that he saves me is unbelievable. So I don't care how much business you're doing. Like a lot of people say, I want to do that myself. I want to make sure it gets done and do all these kind of like, I don't want to say lower level tasks, but it's paperwork. That's somebody else really loves that paperwork, and I care. I hate it. I die inside every time I have signed or coordinate paperwork and emails back and forth that really don't. Yes, they push the transaction forward, but your best use of your time is the conversations, the people that you're in front of. And that's all I focus on for the business. And I focus on that for my own mental health reasons too. I mean, I'm very much like, I'm a conversationalist. I love getting into the weeds on all the nitty gritty conversations that let's not talk about the weather. Let's talk about what moves you. What gets you up in the morning. And I just hang out with real estate investors that end up selling their houses. So, yeah.
Aside from, go ahead.
No, go. We'll fight later.
Okay, let's fight later. 4:00 today. It's in the calendar. Yeah. So TC saved your life just like it saves a bunch of agents' lives. Oh my goodness. A lot of TCs do contract to close. Do you also have your TC do the offer paperwork as well? Because you said that you don't do any paperwork.
I shouldn't say I don't do any paperwork. Sometimes I write the offer myself just to learn about that property a little bit more. But yes, he does write offers. I have a virtual assistant as well, but it's a little bit delayed. It's like basically if I give her a task, it'll be back within 24 hours. And then my wife actually just quit her job, her W-2 job back in September, October. So she is now a lot of leverage. She absolutely is. I mean,
I know because I message her.
Anyway. Yeah, we can go on and on about that because I'm not organized. Like a lot of people are like, oh, you got your shit together. I'm like, no, man, I'm chaos half the time, and without her, without my TC, like the calendar, nothing, none of the paperwork gets done. It's not organized, and having her on board has tremendously helped. It's helped the business, but it's also just helped our overall lifestyle. Like there's just
Sanity.
when it hits the fan, we can focus on it together right now, and then other days if something slow or whatever, we just want to take a day off or a weekend or a week, like we can just unplug and say let's go and clean up some emails from time to time. So
Dude, for
What
sure.
what
good.
kind of tasks do you give this VA, and how'd you find them?
So I found them through my old direct mail company, and turns out, fast forward, like she just was like, "Hey, this person has 5 to 10 hours a week that I started using her with, and it just was an organic kind of here's a phone number. She's in the Philippines. She does a phenomenal job, and I didn't really, I don't want to say I didn't take it seriously at the beginning. I didn't really understand how to like show her, especially in different time zones, like how this all works. But Loom is one thing I was going to mention later. Loom, the video screen share app or whatever, that
So
has
good.
been so good. It's been a lifesaver. I just show her what I do on the screen. This is how you find this or whatever. And it just, that video is out there in perpetuity. She can just find it, watch it, and offers get done. Dot loop, all my loops are all cleaned up. Everything's in there without me having to worry about it. Off like coordinating offers, like when offers come in, she's now in my inbox, she's in my email. So like she finds the offer, puts it on the spreadsheet, puts a loop, tags it to a loop, and just it's fantastic. Versus like,
Nice.
especially during COVID times when there's 20 freaking offers coming in, and you're like, I lost sleep at night thinking, I'm like, did I forget an offer,
Totally.
here or something? Like, yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, I love that, like, from the very beginning, because you're like, I'm chaos or whatever, but clearly your chaos is in a dynamic, engaging way. And the thing that I like in particular is that you're not trying to fix your weaknesses. You're doubling down on your strengths and leveraging out your weaknesses. And that's probably, one of the reasons of many of why you're able to do as much as you do. I was going to ask you though. Oh, sorry.
Real quick though, I
Yes.
am now. It wasn't always that way. I did use a TC very early on, but I got in my own head very early on this. I'm like trying to get better at the shit that I did not like or that I was not good at. And the first year was like, okay, yes, I had the TC stuff, but I don't know. Even the paperwork side, I was trying to like, how do I do this and learn all this stuff? I'm like, no. It got to a point where you're right. Double down on your strengths. Double down on the stuff that you're already passionate about. If you're not good
Totally.
at something but you're passionate about it and you want to learn, go for it. But there was so many different just stuff that I did not want to do for the first 6 months, year that I was trying to do until I got somebody that really enjoyed all that. So,
Dude,
yeah, focus on your
feel
strengths.
that totally. And then your strengths, but also like, I don't want to keep going down the rabbit hole too much, but like what brings you energy too? Like if it's draining you, don't, like, you're not meant to do it. If you're energized about it, like lean in. But before we go super deep in one direction, I just want to ask, like, what is the one type of thing that, deep dive for us to go into that is like your magic fairy juice?
Seller financing, 100%.
Perfect.
Creative financing. I listen, when I was listening to Bigger Pockets early on, I'm like, how the hell are these people selling these properties? No money down, low money down. That's impossible. Going through the whole limiting belief, system in my head over and over and over again. Like, that's not possible. Well, fast forward, we have acquired almost $2 million worth of real estate just by seller financing, no money down, like 5%. But the majority of that's no money out of my pocket versus, maybe some closing costs. And then a couple of them are like 5% down, 8% down at still amazing interest rates. So like I talk to agents all the time. Like, if you're not doing this, like being an agent is a superpower when it comes to seller financing specifically. So a lot of people talk to me like, how do you convince a seller to finance their home? Like, and I always tell them, you're not convincing them. If you're an agent, I have done this time and time again where I have sold a third of someone's portfolio on market, a third of it off market, and I'll buy a third from them directly, no money down, decent interest rate that works both for myself and them. There are a ton of 60, 70, 80-year-old sellers out there that own these properties outright. They want the cash flow. They're tired of managing tenants, being a property manager. And you're right there. They typically have $1 million sitting in the bank anyway. They don't need a big cash injection. And then you show up and say, hey, all right, instead of getting $5,000 a month, I'll pay you $3,000 a month, and then I'll close the property, no money down, and I go and work the property out, bump up the rents. Now I'm getting $7,000 a month on that and still paying them what they, with ease, they just absorb a $3,000 check, a $900 check, like whatever it is. Like there are so many sellers out there that want somebody like myself, somebody that's an agent that can help them out both ways. And if you're not an agent, it's just a lot more difficult to do that, right? I don't chase after it specific. I shouldn't say I don't chase after. I chase after portfolios, sellers specifically. Like that's what I'm good at. Befriend them, take them out to coffee, take them out to lunch. And sometimes, it takes months. Sometimes I just had another one. It took years, and she just finally opened up on like, I got this one. Let's do this. If you're not an agent, it's very. I don't want to say it's very difficult. It's more difficult to find those ball and seller finance deals because you're not helping them out through that entire process. You can't see the whole picture and have them sell some of their properties. And we can, we can get a commission by representing them, and then you just keep building that relationship, and they end up selling their property to you. Yeah.
Let's back up a little bit. How, as an agent, and hopefully you can walk us through an example, like if you have someone specific in mind that you recently did, if you happen to have any numbers, that would be amazing, like portfolio, all the things. So start with, how did you find them?
All right,
this is so fun.
It is fun. I love seller finance, and I'll open up. I love this strategy. It's unbelievable. And people think like you're just taking advantage. It's like, no, you're giving them an opportunity. And I've now closed 20 of our properties are out of the 26 units we have are seller financing. So,
dude, that's amazing.
The first couple were a word of mouth referrals. Somebody had 6 properties, and I ended up selling, same thing, sold 2 on market, 2 off market, bought 2 directly from him. One I actually bought with a loan. One I bought seller financing, 8% down, 5% interest rate. That was early on in my career. That was the first seller finance deal I had ever done. That was like an $80,000 purchase price. That house is worth like $160,000 now. Saved him about $15,000 worth of taxes with the deal that he got initially. So I got a great deal out of it. He got a great deal out of it. But that is peanuts compared to the main portfolio that I have purchased that has changed my life. And it basically made like all the stories on Bigger Pockets. I'm like, holy shit, this is real. You can do this. And this particular seller has become a third grandmother to my child. She is that close to me, truly. I found her during a door knocking campaign. Right. And
you pooped in her house.
I pooped in her house. She sold me 100 properties. So just poop in everybody's house. You just want to find random houses and take a poop. And
that's right.
Yes. Okay.
Go on.
Door knocking campaign. Okay. All right. So this is a door knocking campaign where, this is a Hamilton Forest, large, huge neighborhood here in Greensboro. And when I first got started in real estate, I was knocking 4 days a week, 3 hours a day. Just get out there, figure it out. Look like an idiot. I looked like a complete idiot the first month or so. It was pretty bad. But then you got into a flow, and like I said, I actually enjoy it now. I feel like it kind of keeps me loose from like random conversations and fine tuning that. Anyway, I then knocked on somebody's door, and this is the whole like, I don't know if it's 7 degrees separation. Like you don't know where that next deal is going to come from, right? And if you're not finding those deals, if you're not selling houses, like you're just not having enough conversations, right? Or not providing enough value to those conversations. So I randomly knocked on this guy's door, one guy in this entire neighborhood, who then referred me to his next door neighbor, who referred me to another neighbor that wasn't at that home, whose parents had recently passed away. And, guys in his 50s, 60s, and I basically tried to flip his house. I gave him he had already had an agent. He hadn't signed, but he was committed. And it was before I kind of knew how like to navigate the whole, like, are you committed or are you signed with this agent conversation? And he was like, hey, basically he was like, look, I like you. I've appreciated our conversations over the last month. I know it didn't work out with this house, but I've got this lady that's selling 30 houses that has 30 houses that she wants to sell. Right. And I ended up getting referred to that woman who had her father had passed away. She was in her 70s. Father had owned like 50, 60 properties at some point. She had been managing for the past 15, 20 years. And it was a situation where I met her. I'll get into this in a minute, but I did meet her at the house that I now live in, that I'm sitting in right now. I met her at this house that was her father's house. This was 3-4 years ago. And within 6 months of time, it went from selling a handful of her houses to selling the majority of her portfolio and buying 11 properties at once that were worth $700,000 when I bought them. I bought them for $600,000, no money down, 5% interest on a 30-year amortization schedule, 5-year balloon. Unbelievable deal. I mean, the deal they were bringing in.
What?
Yeah, unbelievable deal. Like crazy situation where I saved her a ton in taxes by not selling them in that tax year. Because this was like, I met her in like October 3.5 years ago. And then within 6 months later, I had sold the majority of her portfolio. We were under contract that following like May, June. And it was just one of those situations, one of those like bigger pockets type moments. I was like, dude, okay,
totally.
Whoa, like you can do this on a larger scale. And, I mean, you hear these people that are buying 100 units or massive warehouses, whatever, seller financing. You can come up with mutually beneficial terms that are they're great. They're great for me. They're great for her. I came in, I didn't have to spruce up too much of the properties like early on. And I mean, she had tenants in there that were living in there since the late 90s that were paying $450 a month in rent. That the market rent was $950 a month. So, you can essentially, if you're seller financing, I mean, I do this from time to time. I'll overpay for the property, quote unquote, overpay. If you're giving me a great interest rate or great terms. We bought one recently back in October that cash deal was $50,000. The highest I can go was $55,000. And the guy's like, I want $70,000. I'm like, okay, well, I'll give you $70,000 at a 3% interest rate, $5,000 down. And he's like, yeah, let's do it.
That I was going to ask. So even back with the woman who the primary story you were just telling, when you were coming up with terms, like what did that look like? Can you walk us through that conversation a little bit?
Absolutely. So I lay it out with all of the sellers that have portfolios. Even if it's a single house, I always say, look, I can sell it on the market for this much. I will typically put in my listing agreement. I've stopped this in the last 6 months with interest rates and the market being nuts, but I'll put it in the listing agreement that I will sell my side for free if I don't hit this number, right? So you feel confident that you're going to hit this number at least, right? You might not have another agent that comes in here and says, oh, I'll sell it for $40,000 more, but they know full well that they're going to ask for a price reduction in 2 weeks, a month after they go on the market.
I love that.
So I say, hey, listing agreement, if I list it on the market, I feel good about this number right here. I'll do that for 6%. And I'll give you a cash offer right now, close in 2 weeks for this amount. That's typically well under where that's the market value of that house. Or I'll seller finance it and I split it out. So I say, I give them multiple different options, right? I can do a much lower purchase price with a higher interest rate, or I could do a higher purchase price with a lower interest rate, or somewhere like in the middle. But I have multiple different scenarios. I mean, a lot of people just a lot of investors try to ram all this down somebody's throat. Like, you're just seller finance, do this. And I'm like, it is slow. It's not a situation where you're going to sign. I've never had a seller finance deal like me show up and them say, yeah, sure, let's do seller financing right now today. It's a relationships business. My motto is relationships over revenue, with her specifically and every other seller that I've worked with. When it comes to seller financing, I'm meeting for coffee. I know the people that own the real estate. I'm meeting for coffee. I take her out to lunch once a month. I still do. She doesn't own any other properties, and I still take her out. She's this person specifically really has become a member of the family, which is another reason I love real estate so much. Like, she has so much value, so much experience, so much just overall life experience and investor experience that I have benefited from her greatly, not just financially, but just mentally, right? I'm just being there with her and building that relationship.
Totally. And when, I guess my question is, when you go to all of your listing appointments, is this like every listing appointment you go through option 1, 2, 3, and then of the seller financing, options within that? Is that like your standard operating procedure?
Not really. If it's a retail listing, it's done up. It's an owner occupant house. I'm not particularly interested in buying that property. I don't really go down the seller financing route. If there's a portfolio, I'm pretty much bringing it up within the first conversation or two. I mean, I now have. We were going to get into that later. I mean, I almost considered like calling my LLC like options realty, because like if you can just lay out options to these sellers, just let them choose, like let them have control. And like what I said earlier, like don't just like ram it down their throat and say like, oh, I got to convince this person to sell with me. If you give them options, like this is what I have for you, this is what I can do, you tell me. I'm happy to list this for you. Here's my numbers as an agent. Happy to show you that. And most of the time now, it was different early on when you're door knocking. These people don't know you, but now it's investors know other investors. They're referring you to somebody else that has properties and like, all right, Jason did what he said he was going to do. Holy shit, this is nice. Let's get that check every single month without having to deal with ungrateful tenants. So, you just, and another thing that I've implemented into my business here, well, in the past few years, but I've done it more in the last 6 months as the market's tightened up a little bit. This is another option that you can give to your sellers where, my wife and I have a crew. It's not like some full-time crew when it comes to flipping houses or renovations, but we constantly have renovations going on with the Airbnbs, long-term rentals, whatever. So we've got our core group. Well, I started leveraging that core group with my sellers, where I now have a renovation program where I'll front the cost. And I've had this for the past few years. Like I said, I'm now like, we're doing this. We have 5 going on right now. We just closed one last week. Anyway, I will renovate this property for you. You move out, right? Whether it's an owner occupant house or a rental property, whatever, I will renovate this property for you, depending on what it needs, up to a certain amount. My money, my contractors, I'll coordinate all that for you. Here's the numbers I think we can spit out on the other end. And if I'm dropping 10 grand on a property to renovate it, I have this all legal, it's all in writing. If they decide, hey, I'm not listing the property, I get my money back plus interest, whatever. But it really is a 0 interest loan until they close. And for instance, if I'm putting up 10 grand to renovate a property, I'm getting 5 grand worth of a bonus at closing, right? The LLC is getting that bonus at closing on top of the commission. If it's a higher price point home, I'll adjust the commission. Yeah. If it's a higher price point home, I have one right now that like I'll do it for a 1.5% commission extra, which means, I gave them 10 grand.
Chunk.
A chunk,
yeah.
right? So
a chunk.
But if you can prove that they net significantly more money. I mean, I was
going to say, you don't split it with them. It's like, hey, like if we didn't do this, then this is what you would net. But if we do this program, I'll get you what you would net. And then anything above that, we go 50-50.
You're not the first person that's asked me, like, you're not charging enough.
You're not charging enough.
Really. And I mean, that's probably true, because I've consistently been able to, if I'm dropping 10 grand, or let's say the seller's paying me 10 grand plus the 5, so 15 grand, that seller is typically making $30,000 more money. But
then you're probably getting a ton of referrals.
Yes. So this is the whole, like when you have agents, a lot of agents are listening to this podcast, like this is the whole referrals thing. Like don't focus on this one transaction versus like being that great agent, do what you say you're going to do, and the referrals show up. Like I haven't had to spend money on leads or whatnot. I did some direct mail that was beneficial from time to time, but that's not my strong suit. My strong suit is
personality.
Word of mouth, personality, I guess. I seem to have an okay personality. Yeah. So,
right.
Yeah. Maybe.
So what like tools or systems are you using to be able to do this over and over again? Find them, talk to them, run your numbers, show them their numbers, and make deals work.
Yo, real quick, this podcast is not free. Cost of admission is sharing with a buddy who'd benefit or throwing it on your Instagram story. Tag us. We'll reshare that.
So I will say system when it comes to operations is wife. You need a spouse that is that's
just get married.
Just get married. Just find somebody that's really good at the admin. No. No, I mean, I come in, it's typically just me. My wife has recently, if I already have like the listing set, I already know it's going to be signed, I just show up with her. But normally it's just me. I go over the comparable sales. I go over what needs to happen. I go over like, are you in a situation where you have the funds to do this? That's typically the big deal. It's like, we don't have the cash to put into this right now. We just bought this other house, or we're moving, or rental property is just, it sucks, get it off my plate, it's typically cash, right? Sometimes they're working all the time and they just don't have the bandwidth to absorb all these contractors and get all that going. So I just show them, hey, this is what I feel confident your house will sell today, right? If we listed it as is, this is what you're going to get. This is what you're going to net at the end of the day. And I show them, if you put flooring, paint, paint, everybody they get mad about paint. I'm like, dude, painting an entire house, a 2,000 square foot house, costs like $3,500, like top to bottom, ceiling, everything. It makes it look so much better versus
depending on your market.
Depending on your market. Sorry, I'm in Greensboro.
But yes. No, it's okay. I still love the Greensboro market because it makes sense in a lot of ways. And now that I'm in Charlotte, I'm like, nothing makes sense anymore.
Yes.
So that's fine.
It doesn't. Yes. And we do have a crew. This is a big thing with the renovation program that we have that a lot of other agents wouldn't have. Like another agent that doesn't have the relationships with these contractors, they're getting market price for all these renovations. Totally. Right. We have one, all of ours at this point are, if I'm putting 10 grand up, it's probably going to cost them 17 grand or so to get that work done already. So my fee is something that they were going to probably already have to pay. So I bring this up now regularly where you're going to have to do this anyway. Why don't I just absorb this for you? And I make extra, I make a bonus. And then I have not broadcasted the Reno program up until recently. I finally put it on Instagram like 3 months ago for the first time. All of that business has been referral business. It's always like my son's selling their house, my dad's selling their house. Holy shit, I do this. Like it's just referral business from that point on.
Because it's genius. That's why.
I'm
literally taking notes over here. I'm like, this is so good. Okay.
Yeah. I'll send you my paperwork. So how many? Go ahead, Allie. Yeah.
Yeah. No, how many conversations typically, if you track number of conversations or visits or phone calls, whatever, from start to finish, how many does it usually take? Cause I know length of time can be different, right? Depending on each seller. I wouldn't think that that's like the best way to quantify or measure, but
it really depends. And I know we're supposed to get into the weeds on like conversions and conversations there. I don't even want to say I'm not that kind of agent, right? Like I probably could do this on a much larger scale, but I enjoy this business. I'm very like work-life balance. I know that's kind of a faux thing sometimes, like you're all in work, all in the family, but
it's good.
I really like, we've gotten to the point where, yes, could we sell more houses if I talk to 5x more people, whatever, but it's become a referral business where I don't have to. I have multiple groups that I'm a part of that I'm passionately a part of. Pints and Properties. I'm in the Landlord Association. I have my financial literacy meetup. I go to the gym. I'm part of a CrossFit gym that a ton of my business comes from. I don't focus on like, hey, I might put notes in there saying I spoke to this person about this property today. Here's the address, whatever. I might do some background on it, but I'm just more intentional about conversations, like deeper conversations. And like I mentioned before, like this isn't just because of your business. Like your business is going to thrive if you have deeper conversations, but it's better for you. It's better for them. There's more value. You care about them. So like, talk about it. Talk about their, somebody passed away, a kid's born, flowers. I mean, I send flowers like it's my job at this point, because I mean it. I'll show up on their doorstep and I'm like, dude, this happened, or whatever it is. I'll go right to the farmer's market and grab flowers. I mean, I've done that 50 times at this point in my business.
You see why he's in the clouds?
I'm in the clouds. Yeah.
Do you see why he's just fucking a dude? Oh my God. Stop. No, just kidding. I love it.
I'll double down on that a little bit, but like a lot of agents, including myself, like when I first got into this business, it was accuracy by quantity, right? You knock on 1,000 doors, you're going to get deals, which I still agree with to this day. If you're a terrible agent, what's the stat? Like, does 70% of people just use the first agent they come in contact with? Like, that's an unbelievable statistic to just show you. Get out there and start talking to people. Even though that statistic blows my mind, because like, are you vetting these agents? Like, is this a brand new agent? Does this person not know what they're doing? They've been in the business 10 years, but they've sold 5 houses.
That's insane.
So
yeah,
I did get into the whole building the team thing. Like, I've got these leads coming in. Well, let's talk to more people. Let's do more and more and more. And I have found that with me personally, I'm not that person. It's not even the agent. Like I don't I mean, I track plenty, but like I'm not tracking like, did I make 100 calls today? You know, it's not like that. It's face to face. My conversations are typically face to face, and if it's not face to face, it's texting about meeting up for coffee in a week or whatever.
Yeah.
So
So
Yeah.
I have a question. So your whatever it's called, Nugget is seller financing. And I know that you dropped a nugget in to share with everyone. So how does that connect to what we've been talking about?
So
actually, before that,
really
quick,
yes.
I want to have one conversation. I think Shelby knows this by now. I love my like role play because
she does.
That's when you can like get in the weeds of like, how does a conversation look like? How do you start and finish that conversation? So think about like most likely the conversation that you have about money, about how much you're going to be doing, just your whole overall listing presentation. What does that look like? Can we do like a snippet where I am the seller? Whoever passed away, I don't want these properties. You said, usually it's not owner occupied, so I don't live in this property, but we're meeting there. I'm meeting you. We've already had a couple of conversations. I'm open to talking. But I'd like to have a conversation like that.
Let's do that before I get into the weeds there. I'm happy to role play on that. But a lot of people ask me something. I'm happy to role play, but like a lot of people ask me like, what is your setup with like paperwork and all that, right? Plenty of agents have the marketing binder, this whole like grand 50 pages listing thing or whatever. I still to this day, and I'm embarrassed to even say it. I mean, I've told this to my wife forever. I've told this to a bunch of other agents. Like, I show up with the Working with Real Estate Agents brochure, the listing agreement, and that's it. I have the mineral oil and gas rights in my car. I do have the property disclosures in my car. That's it. I don't have a handout on like, this is what I've done. I don't. And again, I'm embarrassed to say, I've said this where I'm like, if I can make this even more organized, if I could just get this to a point where the people that gravitate towards me are, I would just say there's more simple human beings. Like it's not a bells and whistles thing. I have beat agents before that come in there. I'm the third agent that shows up, and I've seen their whole stack of marketing right there on the counter, right there for me to see. And I'm like, I've got none of that, right? And they still sign the listing agreement at the end of the day. If it's building.
Less is more, though. Oh my gosh, simple, straightforward. What was it that we just said the other day? It's like the number one sales killer is technobabble. Like the minute that you get too much into the weeds or too over the top, like talk to a third grader. That's your key.
Yeah. Allie, let's do it. All right. So this is a seller. This is a seller that has, the Reno program helps with, it's either an investor. It helps with a lot of different people, typically like the cash situation. So let's just do like an owner occupant house. They're looking to buy their next house, or let's say they bought the next house, but I already know this by the time I show up. Right. Or you can set an example. You can do an investor one too. That's fine. They have a house that's sitting there.
Because that's mainly what you're doing, right?
80% of my business are investors. Yeah.
Yeah, let's do that. I had, family member passed away. I have 20 properties now that I don't really want to keep, but I want to make the most out of it. So thanks for coming over to the house, Jason.
Hey, it's good to see you again. I normally just come in, sit down. If this is a vacant, are we at the property? I prefer to be at the property that they're selling.
Yeah, wherever.
Sorry, let me take a step back. Sorry, this is the portfolio of 20 houses. Sorry, Allie. Okay. So I normally go to their primary home, sit down. I have a whole spreadsheet of properties that they have provided. I have 3 different columns on the spreadsheet that says list price, what I think the market price is, what they'll net at the bottom. I have on a separate sheet of paper, I typically have like the cash price, the cash column, and then multiple seller financing terms that I have come up with before this conversation, right? But at the end of the day, hey, Mr. Miss Seller, come in. I need to know how much these are renting out for. What is your intention with the property? And have you been managing them? Like if your family has passed away and you just want these off your plate, probably not the best seller finance situation. So a lot of this stuff I try to get beforehand. I don't know if this is the best role play, Allie, but there's just a million different scenarios that you come in contact with. Like, I do not push if they're like, look, I just want these done, right?
Yeah.
I will, hey, I can list these. Let's get these on the market in the next couple of weeks. I mean, I'll even do it from time to time where I'll pay the inspection. They all legit, all in writing. You're paying me back at closing. If you pull the plug, I'll get all of these properties inspected on my dime. You pay me back at closing so I can release the inspection report without a bunch of photos and measurements and whatever. I can list this publicly. And when we go under contract, we're staying at that number because we've already disclosed all the inspections on this property, right? Now, most of the time, it's if a family member had passed, somebody absorbed these properties. Maybe they've probably been managing them a little bit under the radar for a while. Then it's how much are these properties bringing in? How much are you netting every single month? And then what is your time worth to manage these properties, right? So like, hey, so many different sellers, 60, 70, 80 years old, they're like pulling their hair out at this point because most of my seller finance deals, these people are still writing rent rolls on a clipboard. It's all paper. There's no tech. There's no leverage behind it. I can come in and say, look, you're making, okay, these 5 properties are bringing in $4,000 a month. I can give you $2,500 a month, just principal and interest, right? How does taking a $1,500 pay cut or a haircut every single month when you don't have to manage these properties anymore? Meanwhile, I can absorb those properties, pay the $2,500. That's a cash flow neutral deal when it comes to insurance and taxes on top of that. But I know that the market rate is $2,000 more than what I'm purchasing for. So within a year or two, I'll be able to increase the rents to an amount that I already kind of know about, right? Sorry.
So when you have
not the best at role playing, I do it. I do it like
seriously. Don't be
you got
sorry.
to the point.
She does this.
Yeah.
She does this. It's fine.
Yeah, because it's. I want to get like more of like the specific questions that you ask, which you said all of it. What is the most common objection that you get from sellers, and what is your response to that?
When it comes to,
obviously it's all situational, but still
it is. I mean, if they're if they're like hardcore, there's a lot of investors out there that are like hardcore no seller financing, right? Like I'm not doing that. I don't care if you give them a 12% interest rate. They're just not into it. They've been burned in the past. Somebody defaulted on the loan. I don't push any of those conversations. I did have one, that I stopped talking about it, and then 6 months later it came back came back into the conversation. When it comes to it, I don't really I'm sure there are objection handlers that I know, but I don't, it's really just a conversation. What do you want, right? The seller at the end of the deal, which is why I think being an agent is a superpower that I overlooked early on in my investing career. It's like, what does this person need, right? Do they need the cash? Do they need the cash flow? Are they tired of managing this? Are they not tired of managing it? At the end.
Well, you have a solution for all of their problems. And that's the beauty of it is you can go in and genuinely just be curious about like, what is your problem? What do you want? How can I take, whatever mess you feel like you have and fix it? And then whichever option they choose, you can handle. It's like they have no reason to go anywhere else.
Yeah. I think curiosity is, so many people are skin deep in this business, right? They're trying to get that listing agreement signed. It's a transaction business versus like, what do you need? Like at the end of the day, what do you need? Right. And I'm happy to, I'm here for you, right? Like you said, solutions, like you really do. Like what's the Elon Musk quote? Like you get paid in direct proportion to the value that you're bringing. The problems you solve, like true. Like that's it. Right. And I didn't take that even seriously until I got into the agent game on like, oh, that's why when people started saying, I got to sell this property for $150,000, and I know full well because they don't have $5,000 in the bank to put $5,000 into it. I'm like, dude, if you put $5,000 in this property, you're gonna get $20,000, $30,000 out of it, totally. Right? So once those conversations started happening, I'm like, dude, I can't let you walk away from $20,000 because you don't have $5,000 in your bank account. I've got you, right? Like I'll figure that out. And it's not like, even early on, it's not like I'm Mr. Moneybags here. Dude, I just sat down with a business line of credit banker because I'm like, dude, this renovation is blowing up where I'm now putting a ton of cash out. I need to leverage another line, not another one, but a business line of credit specifically instead of just being in my checking account. So like your clients, the prospects, the leads, like they kind of the good ones. You walk away from people that are like, oh man, the house is worth $100,000. They think it's worth 180. I mean, I just had a listing appointment at a $525,000 house, and the lady's like, no, $750,000. No way. Like it's worth $750,000. Don't spend any more time on that. Like, hey, if you don't want to have a conversation, if you don't want to be done with this right now, like if you're not agreeing to, I'll test out the market for $550,000 for 2 weeks, but we're putting it in writing that we're going to do a price reduction within 2 weeks, within a month. If we don't get offers, I'm done. Stop chasing after these people that are completely unreasonable. And yeah, like I said, at this point in my business, though, it's not even chasing after those people. It's most of my clients, 80% of my business are people that have already used me. They already trust me. And I find the more that I bring on newer clients.
I think that's
go ahead.
What everyone wants.
Yeah.
It's just like everyone's aiming for the type of business that you've built, from genuinely being curious, from genuinely trying to help people and solve problems. So it's like a really cool and okay, now is it time? Can we go to the thing?
Let's do this.
To the magic thing, the R2D2.
Oh, the R2D2, the DTD2. And this is something that, I mean, I still use this in my business, but like when you talk about the referral business, like I'm crazy about the 80-20. I know that 20% of the people that are on my phone that are bringing in 20% of my clients, I should say, that are bringing in 80% of the business. At the end of the day, that's what you need to focus on, the 80-20 principle. The DTD2 is a system that Keller Williams showed me early on in this business, where you take the last name of every contact that's in your phone, it's in your CRM, and you categorize them. And there's 12 different categories spread out over 12 weeks at a time, 13 weeks at a time, that, for instance, like A and W is a category. So you put a hashtag, and we use KV Core, and the hashtag's A and W. So everybody with the last name A, or that the last name starts with A or W, I'm contacting them this week, right? Next week, it's B and E. Last names start with B or E. The following week, it's C and K. And you can look up DTD2. I posted that. I uploaded it so you can see the spreadsheet that I use. This makes you have a conversation with those people at least 4 times a year. They come into your brain 4 times a year to reach out to. You should be doing more than that early on. But like I said, it's not. I use that system for the 20% of my clients. I mean, I've gotten to the point that I'm no longer chasing after, do I need to contact this person 10 times a year when they're never going to sell a house, or they're in the same mindset. Newbies, a lot of investor agents are listening to this, a lot of newbie agents, a lot of newbie investors, I'm sure, like, this is something that stressed me out early on this business. I'm here to help people. I'm happy to help if you want to be helped. If you want to put the work in and do that.
Totally. Preach.
I truly am. But like
oh my God.
It really got to the point where I'm like, dude, why I'm wasting so much time with newbies that 90% of them do not pull the trigger. And I'm like, dude, you're not going to lose your shirt up. Like, don't buy a bad deal, but go out and buy a deal. Like, just doing that, just put your money where your mouth is and go buy a deal that's like, you're not going to make $1 million off your first deal, but like buying your
you're going to learn a ton.
You're going to learn way more than what I can tell you or what your podcast is going to tell you. So just go do it. And then call me. Like, I'm happy to represent you on that deal. You know, if you have an agent that's like, but telling you to buy some absolutely god awful deal, that's one thing. But I tell people, I stopped like working with the vast majority of newbies for that reason. Even though early on I was like,
you have to.
You have to.
I did as well.
You have to cut them.
You do. I felt terrible about it forever. I'm like, dude, I'm not like this. I'm not trying to like be elitist or whatever here. But it's at the end of the day, you're now wasting my time. And this is something like Lissy and I, multiple mentors of mine have had these breakdowns throughout the years. I'm like, your time is valuable. If you've gotten to a situation where you know the market like the back of your hand, you're buying properties, you're a great agent, you know all the loan, you know a lot of the lending rules and loans, like you have all of this in your head that you've absorbed from your own personal experience, podcasts, books, and whatnot. And then somebody else that has done zero work is trying to take all of that value with no return directly from you. It just got to the point where I'm like, I just started getting pissed. I'm like, dude, okay, this is that oh no, I'm good. I mean, it's wild. So I just got to the point where I'm
There's
like,
no shortcuts.
there isn't. So just go out and buy a deal and figure it out. Like people are like, oh, I'm going to lose my shirt. I just don't want to lose everything. I'm like, you're not going to lose everything by buying a $200,000 property in a decent area that is barely cash flowing. You're not going to lose your shirt off it, right? Like don't go out and buy a bad deal, but just go figure it out and go. And then when you call me to buy the next deal, I'm right there I'm happy to let's build that portfolio. I mean, I've had multiple people at this point that they've bought 10 plus houses with me. I have one of the guys on my downline, Matthew, like, dude, him and his wife, he came up to me 4 years ago.
He's a stud.
He's a stud. Like,
I hope he's listening. He's a stud.
Better. I'm going to send it to him. But he's one that came to me 3.5 years ago when I first started as an agent. It was like, dude, look, this is what me and my then girlfriend at the time, his now wife, want to do, right? We want to buy these houses. We want this much cash flow. And in my head, I'm like, yada, yada, yada. Like, let's see what you got, right? I've heard that before. Guy fucking does what he says he's going to do. And then multiple single family houses done, low money down, owner occupant, lives in them for a year, turns around. Now he's living in a triplex. All of his bills are paid for. Him and his wife live below their means, cash and cars, went to the courthouse to get married. Like the guy's a star client because I'm like, you did what you said.
And now he's a pillar.
And now he's a pillar. Now he's on board. I'm like, you got to be a freaking agent.
Fucking pillar.
Yeah. So like,
dude, and that's.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, okay. So, and that's the thing. You were at Keller Williams. You came over to the dark side, whatever. But now in the community, you are still you're doing Pints and Properties. You're doing your financial independence. Tell a little bit about like what you're doing in the community.
Yeah. So I love Pints and Properties. That's real estate specific. Obviously, Shelby, that's your baby. I've really enjoyed growing that. A lot of people that are already in that similar mindset that I get to kind of meet.
And you guys crush it. There's 70 plus people at the event where I showed up that one time.
Getting bigger and better. So yeah,
it's amazing.
Yeah. Now
Sorry,
I have somebody to help me organize. Anyway, okay. I do have my AmpliFI meetups. That is my kind of newbie. That's my kind of lowest level type. I shouldn't say lowest level, but like that is my passion project. I have no intention on monetizing that. It's not a lead thing. It's not like, I mean, the people that end up buying properties out of that are not buying the nicest places. So it's not really a big needle mover for me, but I'm very passionate about financial independence, live below your means, invest the rest. The whole rich dad, poor dad philosophy that I read 5 years ago when I lost my job. That book is it's a game changer. Bigger Pockets and Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Like that's where it's at. So I'm pretty crazy about just snapping people out of that hamster wheel. Like let's get that mindset. Let's go. Right. I'm happy to tell you what I've gone through and all the failures and all the hundreds of mistakes I've made in this business. Like here, let's do it. So those are two of my like the passion project there. I'm part of the Greensboro Landlord Association, where same thing. I meet plenty of other people that are doing well in the business and not doing so well in the business that have, lived paycheck to paycheck forever. And then they buy their first property and now they own 10 doors. I mean, it's really cool to be a part of these different groups that, I tell people Pints and Properties and AmpliFI, my financial independence meetup, like those are almost like selfish. Like I'm like, I need those as an outlet myself, right? Like it's not for business. It's not just, I am very passionate, but I love the face-to-face. I love like getting myself, the whole virtual world, the COVID world. That was not for me. It's still not for me. So I just try to get in front of as many people as possible. And, that is those projects right there is what's helping build the community around me. And it's less about like, I don't have any interest in building a ton of other communities or whatever. I'm like, I love Greensboro. I love being here. And I just want to be around other people that are willing to do the work to change their life. And it really doesn't take that much. It's just getting deeper into those conversations from day to day. You never know. Sydney Miller, one of the other persons on my downline, she joined on. Let me quickly go into like KW, the whole shift here. Like I love KW, right? I had a great time there, but with being with Pillars, like what I found with KW is I didn't have the investor agents to bounce off these ideas, to be around people that are like speaking the same language. And that was what's really frustrating when KW was telling me to like, hey, I want you to start talking to these investors, like talk about investing in real estate, when I've been screaming from the rooftops there the whole time, like you agents need to be investing in real estate. Like that should be your first goal, not the $500,000 house that you sell every 7-8 years when they go to move. Like other investors know other investors, and then your business just kind of builds itself. So moving over to 5 pillars, that was you're not hiring KW, you're not hiring EXP, you're hiring me. I say that all the time, right? It doesn't matter the brokerage, but you do need to be around other people that are drinking the Kool-Aid, that are learning, that are growing. And Sydney Miller, who just jumped on board from KW, like she's about to buy 20 houses, no
So
money
sick.
down.
Nice.
That like she's like, dude,
Yeah.
I want to learn what you do. She's about to match my portfolio in like 3 months of being on board, because I'm like, I can teach you. I'm happy to, like, something like that. I'm happy to teach you. I'll show you. I've literally sat down with the seller now 3 times, with her and the 2 sellers. I'm like, this is what I do. I'm not getting paid any money for that, because the money, it's right there for the taking. And if you just know what to say, you know what to do, you put yourself in those situations, like
and get the reps.
you get the reps.
You
Yes.
can't study the whole time. Like you
Yes.
learned by knocking. Dude, I wrote that down earlier. When you're like, yeah, when I took a break after knocking on 100 doors, and I used to knock on doors for 3 hours a day, 4 days a week. I was like, that's the activity that people, when they look at you now and they're like, yeah, he's killing it. That's the part that they don't see.
Dude, I tell
Yeah.
just go knock on doors. Like I tell Scott Moore, the one guy that took me up on knocking on doors, I tell people, like, go knock on
He's
200.
Crushing
He's
it.
crushing my numbers. I love it. Like people are like, how is he doing that? And I'm like, dude, you have to create a thick skin. You have to bring value and learn about real estate, where you can bring value to any conversation. If it's about real estate specifically, I'm going to be able to like move the needle of that conversation and be like, oh, okay, he knows what he's talking about. Getting the reps in when you're knocking doors, like I was sweating. I was stuttering. I mean, I've always enjoyed meeting new people, but like knocking on doors initially, the first month was like awful for me. But you just get those reps in, and then it shows up. And when Scott does that, when he's like, I mean, Scott's a little less like, I don't want to say outgoing, but like he's a little bit more reserved than I am, and he's crushing my numbers because he's gotten in front of people, gotten out of his comfort zone. And I'm like, dude, I could not be more happy, because it's right there. It's not rocket science. Just go out there, get the reps in. And this business, it works for any personality type. You just find people, you just find enough people, and then hone in those skills and invest in real estate yourself. Just investing in real estate is going to get you way ahead of the game. I mean, when I had 1 property, 1 rental, 2 rentals, 10 rentals, I was dropping that into so many different conversations intentionally. I'm like, I'm drinking the Kool-Aid. I know what I'm doing here. I'm putting my money where my mouth is. And then you just build that credibility. It gets a lot easier when you're like, well, dude, he owns 2 or 3 properties. Okay, he must know a little bit, let alone 20, let alone 100. Like you can just build that out where more people are going to start noticing, and you're going to sell more and more properties that way, and buy and acquire a tremendous amount of properties that way. So
Yeah. I talk to a lot of newer agents that think that they need someone there with them for not just like one time, but multiple times, in order for them to, they feel like they have to be there to see it, to hear it, listen, in order for them to do the same thing, when you can literally just like copy and paste what's already been written and then just apply it. Like, yes, you're going to suck the first 35 times, but on the 36th, you're going to feel so much, I think, more proud of yourself, and therefore you're going to fuel yourself so much more than if mom or dad were to be with you every step of the way. And then because as soon as mom or dad isn't there, that's when that agent's like, oh wait, can I do
silent.
this? Yes, you've been there 10 times already, like just do it.
Yeah, just
so I have a quick question about kicking it back to super quick. I'm looking at your D. Oh my God, DD. That one.
DTD2.
Your golden nugget for which is going to be on theagentgoldmine.com. I understand so it's like broken up into 3 different columns. So I'm seeing a launch, which is on which day you're going to text certain people. The certain people are on column number 2. A and W, for example, is the first one here. So either first name or last name starting with A or W. What is column number 3? The text letter. What are those random letters?
That's something that's a copy and paste. I just use the DTD2 as the letters themselves. So right, I use the 12-week year essentially to contact everybody in your database, and I do that 4 times a year. And you mentioned text, like a lot of people are like the text, whatever. Like I see a contact on my list, and it breaks it up into 10 contacts a day or whatever, however many contacts are in your database, and I'm thinking, do I call this person? Do I text this person? Do I set an appointment? Am I going to see them at the gym? Am I going to see them outside? Is there an event that we're about to go to? I just use it loosely as, have I contacted the people that are in my database that I care about, and two, that are, either they're clients, past clients, they're potential clients. I don't like get into the whole like contact your high school person that you've never, that you haven't seen in the last 10, 15 years. I mean, early on I did that. I was very like, again, accuracy by quantity, but now it's loosely, my database is spread up where it's on my calendar, my Google Calendar. It has over the top of for the whole week, 7-day week, it says C and K. The next week it'll say D and O. Next week it'll say F and G, right? So like in my head, it just prompts me, who am I contacting this week? And you can get even more granular where you can like have the spreadsheet. I mean, when I was taking this even more seriously early on, it was like, and throughout this, it's like I had a spreadsheet on my desk every single day. It's like, you contact these 20 people that are in this, this part of the category.
Nice. That's awesome. Dude, You have been killing it so far. Like, I am so excited to like follow your journey and see where you're at just even a year from now, let alone like 5-10 years. What does the future look like for you?
Man,
I want to know too. Yeah, what does it look like?
That itself has been a moving target, right? When we first got into this, it was like, well, we're going to own 2 or 3 properties in the next 5 years. And now we're in the middle of that, right? We're very much, this is not I don't want to say I can't tell you. We have our 4-year goal now, 4-year goal of our passive income, what that number looks like, what our day-to-day looks like. But we have, I'm really not anymore. And it might be temporary, but I'm not into like, am I going to scale this to 200 units? Like it really went from like, we're going to own 2 to 3 doors. And then I was like, I want to buy 200 units, single family houses. And I'm like, there's chaos in that. Mike and I have had this conversation like, all right, these people, are they actually producing any cash flow? Like I have a star client right now that owns a couple hundred properties and just found out recently he's losing like $40,000 a month. It's not worth like scaling if you don't know what's going on behind the scenes. So we're kind of like, we're not go with the flow. We're very intentional, right? But we also don't have this whole grand, like, I need to make $1 million a year off this property. Like I have a 4-year-old daughter. And that is my life. Like it really, like a lot of people think I'm like running around, you're selling properties. Like I feel like our lifestyle has gotten to a point where it's stressful at times. There's shit that hits the fan that we have to deal with. But like yesterday, for instance, I'm taking the day off. I'm going, it was nice out. I took my daughter to go get ice cream in the middle of the day. Like I'm going to do that instead of like, could I have sold 1 more house or gotten 5 more phone calls in, 10 more phone calls by the end of the day while I'm feeling tired and it's nice outside. And I don't know. I'm very like, what is bringing value to my life? And that is first and foremost my family. And it really becomes more organic once you focus on the people. So I already have my coffee meetups, my coffee like appointments, my lunch appointments with the people that really matter in my life. That's already set. It's already a calendar appointment. And we just move it if something hair. I have one 2 days ago where the hair appointment was that day. We just moved it to, tomorrow, whatever. That's Monday next week, whenever this comes out. Sorry, I don't want to say like I don't want to say like I don't know the 5 years. Like we have this 4-year plan at this point on what we want our life to look like. We plan to take a year off, actually RV the country and do that whole mess.
I'm coming.
Yeah, bring it on.
He's like, no, you're not.
Yeah, bring it on. So
that's fine. Okay, that totally makes sense. And I think Allie and I both resonate with that, where it's like, dude, if anyone asks me like, what do you want your next, look like in 5 years? It's like, it's really foggy up there. Like, I don't really know.
Well, Jason's already up there, so he's good.
Oh, that's true. He's in the closet. If you guys aren't watching on YouTube, you should be.
Yeah.
But okay. Our last couple questions for you. Favorite app or tool?
Real quick, if you're listening to this on Apple does not make it easy to leave us a rating, so I'm going to break this down for you. In the search tab, type in the Be More Show for Agents. Click on the thumbnail. Then click that middle tab that says Reviews and click Write a Review. Tap on those 5 stars, of course. Let us know how awesome this show is and how it's helped you. And if that's too much for you, I understand, and just switch to Spotify already. Thank you so much, and back to the show.
I already mentioned it, but Loom. I'm crazy about Loom now. Started using that in the last year, and holy, like if you anything that you can do on the screen, it just tracks what you're doing. It's got a video going, and you can just send it out to your VA.
So have you considered like filming those anyway and putting them on like YouTube and like entitling it like, this is how I leverage, you know, like this is how I use my leverage, and then people could. I mean, that's just an idea.
Yeah. That's a golden idea. I've had a recent fallout, and this is why I don't know, man. The YouTube and Instagram, even I don't know, man. I've had a more recent fallout on like, do I need? I'm happy to tell people
you don't.
Yeah, right.
I'm sorry. I'm distracting.
Yeah, no.
Because your relationships,
dude. This is something I've gotten in my own head about for a while now. It's like it sounds all. I don't want to like step on any toes here. Anybody's listening. Like if you
step
want
on them,
to build, if you want to build out your business and you want to have 10,000, 1 million followers and have the affiliate links and have different like passive income strategies and whatnot, I am all for you. I mean, Alex Hormozy, that guy is a visionary. To be able to like build what he's done in that short period of time is unbelievable. And he's bringing so much value there over and over and over again. People like, or Rob Build or Brandon Turner, all these like big wigs. I'm like, that sounds all well and good on the surface. Like, but there's so much effort that goes in that a lot of people don't think about, including myself.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I'm like, I started getting into that and building, trying to take Instagram more seriously and the social media manager. And like, that has been helpful, but that's still not where my business comes from. That's also not where my value, like, that's not where like my energy comes from. And it really has been something even more recently on like, why am I doing this? Like, I don't, in Instagram, like people, yes, they build this relationship with me. And I've talked about this with you two specifically before. I'm like, yes, there's value to like having these leads that then follow you and they build this relationship with you. And then when they call, they already know, what you're doing 100%. And there's a million agents out there plenty of agents out there that can capitalize on that. But me personally, I'm face to face. Like I am just a face to face person, and I don't get. I'm 35. I guess I am a millennial, but like staring at the screen, taking videos.
You're old as.
Yeah, I'm old as. This deal, like it drives me nuts. I'm like, dude, I'd much rather like have multiple appointments with the people that are moving the needle for my business or my life. And then they buy or sell houses with me. A lot of people overthink and think you need 1,000 leads in your phone, 1,000 contacts. I'm like, dude, my entire business runs off of like really 15 contacts on my phone. Contractors on top of that, attorneys on top of that. But my core buyers and sellers, we're meeting up, we're hanging out, like they're doing what they say they're going to do. And it's like, dude, Instagram, can I get some big apartment buyer or seller out of that or exposure or whatever? Fine. But it doesn't uplift me. Like I don't have a relationship with the people that are in my messages or the likes or the comments or whatever. It's just not the same. And I'm not poo-pooing on anybody that's like taking that seriously, because I'm like 100% go with whatever like gets you up in the morning. But me personally, I'm family, right? I'm here, family and friends, and there's enough business to go around. If you focus and bring that value to other people's lives, you're set.
Yeah. What in-person events are you going to this year?
For instance, I'm going to a rugby event tomorrow, right? Just to support my buddy who's in the finals. Like,
real estate related or agent.
Real estate. Oh yeah, sorry. Real estate.
And we love that. That's awesome. He does have a haircut on Monday too. That we
actually
he's going to that.
Yeah. Oh, that's true.
No, not me. No, not me. No, I don't have the haircut. I'm great clips all the way. I'm frugal to a fault. I bigger pockets. I'll never miss it. I'll never miss it again. I know we've met up there, and I just that
for sure
whole platform and their event specifically is so much value. I've considered the EXP Summit. I'm not like, we'll see. We have a couple other trips that we're looking to do that are more personal. Although we are trying to always figure out how to write off these trips. There's a cruise. There's a CE, the continuing ed cruise that I just learned about, where I can write off.
Oh my God!
Wow.
Cruise.
Did not know that.
Yes, I'll send you the info. Like I'm like that speaks to me. I'm like, can I write off this trip? Let's figure it out. So yeah.
If you haven't heard, there's a Pillars retreat over Veterans Day weekend, and just like pencil it in.
I'll be there. Because this is more locally, right? Is this Charlotte?
This is yeah. It's gonna be somewhere on the East Coast. We haven't decided if it's gonna be beach or mountains yet, but it's gonna be fucking sick. And it's like a smaller group because it's the amount of people that can fit in an Airbnb.
Yeah, we'll be there 100%. Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Great.
Cool.
Okay, awesome. Last question for you. How can we help in your business or anyone who stumbles upon this podcast?
I mean, give me a call, shoot me an email. You can still, I guess, find me on Instagram, AmpliFI Real Estate. But really, I'm just Bigger Pockets is a platform I'm on all the time. Find me there. That's going to be probably you can find me there. You can email me or shoot me a message and I'll respond myself. That's probably the best way to get in contact with me. And if you know of any portfolio sellers, always let me know. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. And we will be pushing out your email and contact information with the show notes. So they're on there. And and if you do anyone out there wants to hang with Allie or I, it's Allie_the_agent. And then with ALI. And then the Shelby Show, whatever. But guys, that is the show for today. And Jason, thank you so much for hanging out with us today.
Thank you for having me. This was awesome. Thank you.
This was awesome.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
And Allie and I end on this little thing where we said we're trying to get it down still. But hey, Allie, wait, be a bro
and share this show.
Thanks for listening, dude. If you want the golden nugget that this guest provided, see the show notes or just go straight to theagentgoldmine.com. That's where we keep the resources for you. Till next time.